Harry Boxer, the Technical Trader at TechTrader.com. It's Saturday, the 4th of November. This is the weekend webinar. What a week we had, folks. One of the biggest I've ever seen. And when you look at the percentages, it kind of astounds you. For the week, the S&P 500 was up 241 points or 6%. And that was the least of the indices. The NASDAQ 100 was up 920 points or 6.5%, while the Transportation Index up 957 points or 7%. Small caps did best though. The IWM up 174 points, 7.6% just for the week. McClellan Oscillator jumped from minus 103 to plus 179. The VIX came down from 21 to 15. And the percentage of stocks above their 40 went from only 15% to 54%. So there was a dramatic shift in what we call an upside thrust after a 5-wave decline. Let's look at the S&P 500. Here's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave decline. Did some key support, and then a sharp bounce. As you can see, the declining top sign was taken out, so it was lateral resistance here, and even at 50. Now there is a cluster of resistance here at 43, 80, 83, 85. About 25 points away. We can do that on the opening on Monday, but anywhere in this zone, I suspect we pull back and consolidate. It may even form a left shoulder head and maybe a right shoulder, which would require a much deeper retrace. We'll have to see. The NASDAQ 100 also, with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave decline, actually took out some support slightly and then ripped it right back up again. 6 days in a row, from a close of 14,109 to a close of 15,099. 900 points plus, as you know, and a huge week for NASDAQ. But note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. This is the 6th point on this declining top line. And should we get through it, it could explode the market. My sneaking suspicion is we're overdue for a pullback and maybe some sort of retest. What about the Transportation Index? Well, it had a nice bounce 6 days in a row from 13.5 to about 14,500 points. Not anywhere near the declining top line of 50-day moving average yet, but right at lateral resistance, may also have to pull back and retest. But even if it got up higher, near 14.9, they may have, that would be probably difficult after 7 days in a row to key declining top resistance. So I'm looking for the market to back and fill or set up some sort of flag consolidation, or at least a retest. We shall see. That's the 20, and here's the IWM, which blew through the 5-wave decline after reaching down at 162. It jumped 12 points, and for the week, 7.63% to be exact. Now, lateral resistance is up here as well as moving average resistance. This double resistance in this zone is going to create some havoc or pullback potentially. Should we blow through it though, the key next level is 180, 179, 180 in that area. So the next day or two, we should get some pullback, maybe the next hour or two. Hard to say when. Nevertheless, the thrust that initiates a new trend often starts this way, with a breakaway gap, a spike through moving averages and declining top lines. The next thing you know, the index will be backing and filling, and maybe the moving average will curl up and turn around and cross over. Watch for that. So those are the indices. Let's look at the McClellan. Obviously, it rocketed in a couple weeks from a low of minus 130 to a high of plus 160, 179 was tagged. Now, 179 is the highest level we saw since March. And usually when a market goes that vertical, here, there, and there, it's the beginning of a move, not an end. It's a thrust that initiates a new uptrend. So we'll have to see what it does in here, whether it backs and fills a little bit and then extends. But if we get anywhere near the 220, 30, 40 range, it's going to be extremely overbought and ripe for a pullback. It's hard to see, and I've rarely seen 2 consecutive major gaps on an index like this. Very powerful move. Percentage of stocks, again, as I mentioned, above their 40 was all the way down around 14%, and within a week shot to 54%, closing 51.64. That is a huge vertical move, a very strong indication that money poured right back into the market. Now, is it a short covering rally, or is it a combination of bargain hunting and short covering? Probably both. Your resistance comes here in the 75-80 zone for the percent of stocks above the 40-day moving average. So now that we've taken a look at some of the underlying technicals as well, let's look at the VIX before we go. After running all the way up to 23, it plunged back to under 15, and a good indication that this was a strong move with a lot of confidence. Okay, so let's go on to some of the major ETFs we follow. First, the components, and you'll see why the market did what it did. Apple didn't have a particularly good day on Friday, but look where the low was. It was down in the morning to 171.50. It closed at 176.66, more than 5 points off the low. So I would call that a really bullish tail. Now we're near the declining tops line that goes way back to July, and high was 190. Now I don't think we go back up there very quickly, but the next resistance level is a test of 181.2, and that is where I would suspect we have a big problem. But let's just see if they can even take out the declining tops line. And yes, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline. So maybe at the beginning something bigger. We'll see. Amazon was a monster. Look at this. Not only did it have a breakaway gap and blow through the moving averages, but it just kept going. Literally in 6 trading days, from a close of 179, 119.5 to 139, 20 points. A nice big move on Amazon last week. Now there's a double top near the all-time, well, not near the all-time highs, near the key overhead resistance, and a massive left shoulder and head right shoulder. And should Amazon ever get above above 146, it can make a move into the 150s and 60s, which would be huge in terms of leading the market higher. It does look like a 1, 2, and a 3, 4. So the fifth wave has not yet happened. Google. Well, the weaker of the 3 that we just mentioned, this one has come back to the gap. So it's key that it continues. It gets up to the next target, 135. If not, and it fails in that zone, it could roll over, depending on what the market does. This is a weak sister right now, believe it or not, even with that rally. Microsoft, excellent all week, 6 days in a row. Notice here it held the trend line of moving average and jumped from 327 to 353, 354. So 27-point run on Microsoft for the week, and it closed above resistance. No telling how far they can take this one. Quite strong looking right now. Netflix had also a strong rebound. It took it across the declining tops line. You can see how it's been up 5 days in a row from a low of 395 to 434, closing 432.5. The next resistance pretty definitively at 453.4. NVIDIA, a nice rebound, but it's still in a precarious position, in my opinion, until it takes out the declining tops line and lateral price resistance. Your next target is 475. Through that, it's it rips. Support is at the gap here, and it's 428.9. And finally, Tesla, a nice rebound, looking pretty dire. So you got all the way down to 194 from a July high of 299, more than 100 points down. And a 1, 2, 3, 4 big fifth wave down. So yeah, this is a rally back to resistance. You can see the gap in here. A lot of work to do. Tesla's one of the weak sisters right now. Let's take a look at the ETS we follow closely, and the SMH had a big week. Went from 138 to 150, was up 8% on the week. Look where it closed, just underneath this declining top sign right there. If we get through that, it'll have some work to do. Right now, resistance Most definitely 152.3 and 157.8. A nice 5-wave decline with a big spike off the low. But the financial did exceptionally well. Look at this move. After 5 waves down to key support at the low from March, it double bottomed from a close of 49.23 the week before. It closed at 60.95, 11.5 points. That was a gain of, you ready? 24% for the week. That's a huge move. That too closed at resistance. So it needs to get to 62.5 and then take out the declining top line at around 65. Those are the levels to watch next week. What about biotechs? Well, they were okay, but they were not as strong as the other two. We had a nice move up off this spike low on Tuesday from 63.80 on the XBI to 72. So about 9 points, 9 points. And for the week, they gained 11.5%, not too bad. Better than the SMH, but not as good as the financials. So financials, then biotech, then the semiconductors were the leaders, which I think is good. Your next target is 74.5. That's where the next key resistance lies. Okay, and now some of the major ETFs we follow. How about gold last week? Look at GDX. Now, I've been talking to you guys for months now, not to touch gold until we see a bottoming pattern. Well, guess what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down, the spike up to resistance where there's multiple tops, and then the pullback, creating what? A left shoulder, head, right shoulder. The measure move from this thing is the way you measure it. 25.5 to 30, 4.5, 4.75 points. You add that on to 30 and change, you get about 35. So it targets at 32.75, 34.5, 35. NUGT, which we follow closely, has the same pattern. You can see that if it breaks through here, it might very well get to 40.41. But first, we got to get to 34. Nevertheless, real promising patterns, in my opinion. Same goes for JNUG and all the other gold ETFs for the most part. Not happy with silver yet. Silver, it fails, but it is a V bottom and a right-hand extension. Only this one's got to make a bigger move, say across 28.5, 29, to convince me that that is trailing along with gold. Right now, it's not, or it isn't as strong. Natural gas will boil, forming a beautiful long-term base, but you can see multiple tops in that zone. First it's 72, and then it's 77. So work to do on that one. And in terms of oil, the USO, we're looking much weaker in here. In my opinion, the possibility exists that that was the trend. That was a breakdown kiss back. And now for some key support. If you see the USO below 73, it's probably headed for 70 and maybe even 66.7. So look, oil's coming down. Looks like natural gas is holding its own, but it's had a big move. Okay, we got a lot of stocks to talk about. Let's go over them, long and short. I'm going to waylay the short side today. We have too many longs to cover. How about ACLX? Exploded last Thursday, Friday. It made it all the way back up near the May high. Look at the long-term chart. It looks to me like this is your angle of ascent. And that calls for a move into the mid-60s, folks. Now, if I see ACLX break out above 49, it's a definite swing, but I would love to see a nice setup in here. AEHR, while we went long on it, spiked down. When it tagged 21.57, we were long 21.90, I believe. And I said swing to 25 and 29 to hit 26.20 when the week was over on Friday. AEM in the gold sector is an Agnico Eagle. Beautiful inverse head and shoulder as well. Looking for a move to take this one to 54. AFRM broke out of a falling wedge after a 1, 2, 3, 4. This is wave number 5 starting. Now, Joe and everyone else who follows the stock, there is resistance, and a retest of 25.65 would be in order. Beyond that, the target's 28 and 31. AI, well, everybody follows this. Funny, had a nice Thursday, Friday, broke the moving averages and declining top signs of lateral price resistance. Next target, 30 and 32.5. ALPN, Alpine Immune Sciences, interesting long-term chart. Look at it. It broke out of the declining channel and it spiked up and blew out, but it's up against now key resistance at a long-term pattern. AMD, Advanced Micro finally broke out of a multiple wave decline through 3 moving averages and through triple top resistance and closed there. In my opinion, unless the market fails immediately, this is likely to see 119.22. I really like the way that is broken back out. ANF, one of the strongest retailers on the board right now. Here's a stock that a year ago was 14, and here it is at 65. That's right. More than 300% in a year, and it doesn't look done, does it? I got a target of 83. ANIP, beautiful biotech, a really strong pattern. Broke out of the falling wedge and just has gone vertical from 56 to 65 with a target of 71.2. APLT swing, well, popped out and pulled back, popped again, and pulled way back to test the moving average. I need this thing to hold right there under 2. $2 is your stop. Your targets are 3 and 4. ARLP. In the coal sector, I just found this one and I thought, geez, I got to tell you guys about it. Broke the long-term downtrend like many coal stocks, retested, ran up and pulled back, and now it's going again. My target's 27. AU, one of my favorite golds, if not my favorite. 5-wave decline, popped up and pulled back. Has an upsloping neckline, but let's just leave that alone for a minute. We got to get this through this double top. Take this through 19 3/4. It should blow through 20.5 and fill the gap to about 21.5 and then 23 1/4. AUTL, beautiful action on this stock in the last 2 weeks. Along more than 1 year base pattern. The target now is 4 3/4, 5.5, and 7. BBIO, beautiful base, breakout coil, ran up slowly and then exploded on a breakaway gap. And over the last 3 months, it's come down in this very orderly manner to test the trend line. Note the last week, up every day, looking like it wants to be upwards of maybe 35.5. That's my target. Biohaven, love this chart. After getting crushed, it looks like a reverse split. I mean, a split, but I don't get it anyway. The bottom line is, from that disaster in October, it's worked its way back over the last year, and last week spiked up after testing support that it broke through here for a couple of weeks. It flagged and broke out. I think you can make this one into the high 30s, low 40s. BRBR, beautiful food company, bell ring brands. The rising channel indicates a target of 50 plus, maybe 53. BTAI, disastrous downtrend, saw it move from the low 30s down to 2 and change. Popped out, broke out, ran to resistance and backed off. There's a big gap there, folks. So what I'm going to look for is a move to fill that gap near 7. CBAY. This biotech stock's been a beautiful uptrend for a year and a half, from 1 and change to a high of 18, actually 18.20. Came down, now it's moving back, right back up again. This angle of ascent indicates that if it continues, 22 is your target. In the uranium group, the leading purveyor of uranium, in my opinion, is this company, Cameco. Broke out and backed off, but look at this angle of ascent, and it's multi-year highs. Matter of fact, yep, it's the highest level since 07, a 15-year, 16-year high. At this point, though, targeting 48 and 55. CDLX. When I saw this inverse head and shoulder a few months ago, I put out a buy right there. It went from 8.20 Well, I cheated. 1957 to be exact, before pulling back down and falling wedge. That is recently broken back out again. So this one needs to get back above 15 and a half. If so, 19 and then 25 may be doable. CLF, that's Cleveland Cliffs. It's the steel company that's probably acquiring U.S. Steel. Beautiful base pattern. I like the look of it. Declining top sign taken out. Now it needs to get above 18. If it does that, 20 and 23 may be doable. COUR, Educational and Training Services Company. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this consolidation looks very bullish. The stop would be under 16 and a half. The target's 22.3. COYA, we were talking about this since one of my institutional clients took them public and the stock spiked. It then came down, popped, came down and popped. Look at this flag that it just broke out on Friday. That's a big breakaway move. Volume wasn't heavy, but I think still we get to 6, 7, and 8 in the stock. CPS. Cooper Standard had a big breakaway move and a gain of 40% on Friday alone. The kind of stock that thing has legs. My target is 26.7. CRNX exploded, pulled back, we put a swing on it, it then coiled and broke out Friday. Here's the key. 31 was the high back September the 12th. 31.41, a new high on Friday. I think this accelerates and gets up to the 36.7 range for a swing. It is a current swing. CRISPR, long downtrend, breakaway move, sharp rising pattern, right to resistance. If it gets through here, 59 is your target. Carvana, well, orderly retrace, but took way off from near 57 down to the mid-20s. It popped Thursday, and it had a massive engulfing bar on Friday that saw it go from a low 27.21 to 35 and finished 32.44 up to 50. Up 8.5%. We got to get to Friday's high, and then your next target is 40. CWCO is a water company with a big 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth wave target is high 30s. The AKT Daktronics has been an uptrend since last December, where it traded at $1.50. Well, folks, it went up almost tenfold and reached 10.27. It's been consolidating for a couple of months and ready for the next leg. Target 13. DELL. I'm a big believer institutions are all over the stock. They had great earnings recently. Apparently they make servers for AI, and it looks like one of those stocks that could be another 10 points from here. DraftKings with a big day on Friday, I believe it was earnings related, but it broke out with a breakaway gap above the moving averages and the declining comps line. And it got right near that spike high from early August when it was 34.49 with a tag of 34.21. When we get through here, we're looking at 40. DRS, beautiful aerospace chart. A nice little flag was broken out last week after it popped out of a multi-month consolidation. My extension target is 22. EDU, one of the larger Chinese educational stocks for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or is it? It could be 1 and 2 of 5. We may get 3, 4, and 5. Eventually, I'm looking for triple digits. EPIX exploded 2 weeks ago and backed off from the wedge and broke out Thursday, Friday. Target 7.5. FNGR, I'm worried about because after multi months of trying to pop, pull back, pop, pull back, pop, and pull back, this time it was weaker and now pull back to this trend line. If it breaks, stop it out. FRO, the shipping group, targeting 26 and 30, very strong long-term chart. So is FTI in the oil and gas sector. After basing out and breaking out, long 1, 2, 3. I can't tell, but it looks to me like the wave's underway. It may get to 26.7. Fubo popped Thursday and Friday, broke out about multi-month coil. Your assignment or your target at 385. And then I'm looking at 5. GBTC, well, with Bitcoin running, look at this chart. Since June, when this stock was trading at 8 and change, it has now tripled or more and got up to over 27. Your target on momentum, 35. We showed you GDX. Geo, swing trade when it broke out there, has been still stepping its way higher. And Friday was the highest level on it since February, and I believe now you're going to make a run probably at about 10, and then 12. Barrick, gold stock I really like as well as AU. This one has a beautiful inverse head and shoulders. The target's at 18, 18.5, and 20. HLX, a nice three-wave corrective pullback to test some key resistance support and a trend line. I like to look for 11 3/4 and 13. Little junior biotech Howell or Werewolf Therapeutics with a huge day on Friday. I wanted to show it to you. Still there's resistance and the target is 4.5. HPK was put out as a swing when it popped out, then it pulled back, popped again a flag. My target is 20. HRTG, a beautiful little junior insurance company that's gone from $1.25 to 7.5 and still looks higher. Targets are 9 and 11. IBRX, what a wonderful couple of weeks this had. $1.25 to over 4. It has momentum, but it has resistance here too. However, the next targets are 5 and 7. IDYA, one of my big picks for the year. I believe the stock popped in April, wedged, came down in an orderly fashion, flagging, ran up again and did it again, flagging wise. It's broken out again. Target 33. Immunogen, long falling wedge. Last week showed me an inverse head and shoulders with a breakout, and then inside day Friday. Should it get above, looking for a move above 16 3/4, then your targets are 18.5 and 20.5. IMVT, really like to look at this one. Major breakaway gap, a pullback coil, and then a larger coil elongating. You just don't want to see it under 31. The targets are 38 to 44. Intel's been in an uptrend since we spotted it as a swing back here in April. You can see how it pulled back and then ran up again in a very choppy fashion. My target's 42 and 46. JNUG, we showed you that's in the gold sector. Targeting 35 and 39.40. LABU, didn't show you that earlier. I showed you XPI, but LABU's made a nice recovery. Deep retrace to 242 to get up a buck, 347 for about a 40% run just last week. Your target now is 365, 1.5. LFMDs, the tech trader swing broke out and now flagging. Target 10.5 3/4. Leon, what a move, making a breakaway gap and a run up rising flag. I can see this making a move to 6. Logitech broke out, we put a swing on it, it's moved up to target number 1. Next target 88. LRN, another educational stock with a massive base breakout gap and run up. Extension target is 58. MLTX, long multi-month consolidation after a big move in June. You can see how it's right on tremendous support right here. If it holds it, a retest of 62 is in order. MNSO, nice consolidation coil. I'm looking for a breakout and a run to 29 3/4 and 34. Junior aerospace stock momentous exploded from 103 to 595, nearly 6-fold increase in a week and a half. Settled down, beautiful flag, and then it was up 6 days in a row until Friday when it backed off. Keep a close tab on this one. Any move above Friday's high, 458, and I think you're looking at 6 and 7.5. NOx, Nanox was a swing here that didn't work. I decided to put it on again. So far it has worked. It's gone from 492 to 625. My extension targets are here at 7.5 and 9. Nutanix, nice recovery this week, like many tech stocks. Falling wedge was broken. Stock is up 6 days in a row. It did back off a little late Friday, but my targets are 40, 42, and 44. OLMA, it's a beautiful junior biotech stock. Check it out. A year ago, December, this stock was 219. Friday's high, 1761. A hell of a move. It doesn't look done yet, but there is some resistance in 19.5. Your next target. PAY, nice uptrend underway. There's a breakaway gap wedge. Let's show you that. Popped out to resistance, falling wedge, breaking out. Extension targets, retest 17 and then 21. BETQ, tremendous long-term rising channel from October of last year when it was trading at 665. More than tripled, nearly quadrupled to nearly 23. My target now 25 and 30 at 29. PINS, big week for it. Breakaway gap through 3 moving averages and the declining tops line. Right to the high from July. Doesn't look done yet, has tremendous momentum. My target is mid and then high 30s. Palantir, coming out of a falling wedge, that too had a big gap on Thursday, and then Friday it broke out. 20 and a quarter and a half is your next target, and then we're looking for big numbers in the mid 20s. POW, ALPL, with a big pop and pull back. I put a swing on it. It ran up and pulled back and ran up again and pulled back, and it's basically consolidating. It's August, so it's time to make a move. If it gets through 90, the target's 105. PSN, beautiful long-term rising channel, and coming out of an ascending bull coil with a breakaway gap on Wednesday. Extension target is 66. Big move on Sava until Friday when it reversed, but take a look at the move just from here, 13 and a half, 25 and a half, basically 12 points. But what that did is it broke out above multiple tops. I'm now looking for a possible extension to get it to 27, 28 zone. SDGR was on my tech trader swing short list, and you can see it worked pretty well as it dropped from 38 to last week's low of 20.76, only to snap back, and now is maybe charting a new bullish trend with targets at 34 and 37. Shopify, long uptrend. This rising angle of ascent was broken, and the stock broke key support. After coming down hard from the high 60s to the mid 40s, this had a massive breakaway on Thursday to 3 moving averages, lateral price resistance as well, and now it's challenging the declining tops line that goes back to July. Should we get through here, we might test that 66.8 range and eventually mid 70s. So SOLO with a big pop and pull back and put a swing on it. It's been coiling ever since. Not done yet. 35 and 48 are targets. SMCI, well, massive run. I saw it go from the mid 30s tenfold to 357, and then pull back and form a large coil. Obviously, you don't want to below last week's low, 225.6 is support. Your targets now are 290.95, and then we'll see where it goes from there. In the ETF for the semiconductor, the triple 5 waves decline and then explode. That's SOXL for you. 14 to 18.75 just last week, and it's up against declining tops and moving average and lateral price resistance. There's a juxtaposition there. If it gets through it, you might see 21.22. Spotify, look at that chart. From the low 70s, more than 100 points to 182, came down from the flag and popped out. It's wedging here. I like this from retest of the high at 180. STRL, one of the stronger engineering construction stocks we've seen in a couple of years now. It's gone literally from 7 to 90. Nope, I'm wrong. 70 to 84. Pulled back on an orderly retrace and seems to be wanting to break out again. Wouldn't surprise me to see 90 and 100. SWBI is a tech trader swing. It broke out, ran up again and pulled back and popped again. Now it's flagging or wedging in here. Breakout gets me to 15.75 and 16.75. ThreadUp, this junior little specialty retail online firm, literally in May was trading for under $1, 73 cents. They went up to 4.18 and then triple top there. Came down the trend line and bounced. If you get to 4.18.20, 5 and 6.5 are your next targets. TGTX, this one intrigues me. Look at the spike and a rising wedge of sorts here. Best seen on maybe an hourly chart. That's what I'm talking about. If this breaks out from here, it's going to go vertical, and it may fill the gap too. So this is something to keep an eye on for next week. Even halfway into the gap gets you 15. I think it's going to be a good swing. Keep an eye on TGTX. TK, oil and gas midstream. Target 8.75 and 10. Great chart. TNA is one of the ETFs we follow on the triple bull. What a pop last week, breaking through everything. Next resistance and target is near 29. TNK, TK tankers, I believe they're oil tankers, but bottom line is a breakout of a 6, 7 month, maybe 8 month base pattern. Now it's on its way higher. I believe it's the highest level in 8 years. And you can see this one has room to run. Tasha, big decline. Now, I'm not sure this is a reverse, but I don't think it is. So in essence, it dropped from 33 to 50 cents. That was a big breakaway, wedge, pop, now long flag. This intrigues me. We break out of here, I'm looking for 485, double. Textronic broke out, pulled back and popped on earnings. When it popped this wedge, I put a swing on it. Didn't go anywhere. It backed off, popped, and backed off again. It's not broken support yet. If it does break out above 80, 81, it's going to be 88 to 90. Uber, long-term beautiful chart. I believe it's a stock that's headed for high 50s, low 60s. UEC and the uranium group, beautiful rising channel, targeting 6 3/4, 7 3/4. USAC broke out of the base, spiked and pulled back, and then formed a wedge. I'm targeting 28 and 30. Another uranium stock, UUUU, looking better as it pulls back and now it's running back up again. There's some resistance, so look for a retest of 9 and then 1085. BRB spikes off the low to from the bottom of the channel to the top of the channel in just a week. 8 3/4 to over 16. But it is at the long-term decline top, so it needs to get through it. And if it does, 19, 21, and 25 are targets. Vista, oil and gas, beautiful chart, beautiful long-term rising channel, 37 target. The RNS Baronis broke out, pulled back and tested, popped again and pulled back. You can see that if it pops through here, it's got clear sailing, targeting 39. BRT, which is a tech traded swing, moved this way higher and backed off, but I don't believe it broke support. In any case, the next target is mid-40s. BST broke out of a coil and ran last week, looking for an extension to 38. WPM, it says Wheaton, one of the biggest silver purveyors, if not the biggest. It does have a promising kind of a facing right hand extended V pattern. I'm looking for a move if it does break out to around high 40s. WRAP, give you a tech trader play on it and then a swing on it, and boy, is it working well. Looking for 365 and 4 3/4 are your next targets. WBE, the slow but steady rising channel. Next target 6 3/4, 7 1/4. US Steel, which I believe is a takeover, beautiful rising chart. It's been up just about every day for the last week. I feel it's a $38 to $40 takeover. XBI, we showed you this earlier. It has resistance ahead, but it looks bullish. XPEV, the Chinese automotive electric vehicle manufacturer, broke through its 50-day moving average, and I believe it's headed to 18.5 and 20. XPO, which is my favorite trucker, beautiful week. Look where it is near the. This is the all-time high, folks, split adjusted, but still, a fantastic chart. Wouldn't be shocked to see this back in the 90s. And finally, Zixi, long decline, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down, double bottom and breakout. I believe this is 10.5, 11, and maybe as high as 13, 14 over the next few weeks. Folks, that's it. I'll look at the indices, the technicals, the leading NASDAQ generals, a lot of the ETFs we follow, and over 100 longs. Too much to cover, and in terms of the short list, I literally eliminated about 35, 40% of the shorts because they broke through resistance. So I'll be re-examining that list at a later date, but for now, let's see if this rally can extend or not. I believe it will. Have a great weekend. Please review this, and I'll talk to you Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye now.